Over the past few years, the fossil fuel industry's focus has increasingly been on Africa, where it is fast-tracking new fossil fuel development and infrastructure, and often talking about it as a way to pull Africa out of poverty, despite the fact that a lot of the oil being produced there and moved around is ultimately for exporting to global north countries, which oil majors will profit off of, but developing countries maybe not so much. Proponents of this build-out often talk about how it will bring both development funding and the money necessary to adapt to climate change for countries in Africa. They talk about rampant energy poverty on the continent. That's a term used to describe lack of access to consistent power. In a lot of ways, it's a real indictment of international climate negotiations that countries in Africa and other parts of the global south feel like they have to depend on oil majors to pay for climate adaptation. We've talked about that before, especially in our season on Exxon's project in Guyana. In the absence of the money that's long been promised, first as climate reparations and then as loss and damages, many countries feel like they can't really escape extractive industry. Unfortunately, it's also pretty unlikely that fossil-fueled development will actually pay off for these countries. In Africa, Nigeria, the country with the oldest, largest, and most established fossil fuel industry on the continent, is a prime example. Nigeria currently has the world's lowest energy access rates. And while oil and gas has made a handful of elites wealthy there, that benefit has not extended to the vast majority of Nigerians. They have experienced the lion's share of contaminated water and soil from oil spills, though. All of which has driven decades of protest against oil drilling projects in the Niger Delta, and a corresponding backlash to that activism from both government and oil majors. Next year marks the 30-year anniversary of the killing of the Ogoni 9, activists who had fought against Shell Oil's activities in Nigeria and were arbitrarily hung after an unlawful arrest and unjust trial. Shell has been accused of being complicit in those murders, though never held accountable. In the decades since that event, despite facing intense and often violent repression, activists have continued to shine a light on the destruction that fossil fuel development has brought to Nigeria.
Today, Ugochi Anyaka Oluigbo takes us to Ogoni land to bring us the story of those activists' long fight, how they've stuck with it for so many years, and some of their recent wins. That story is coming up after this quick break.
I'm Amy Westervelt, and this is Drilled.
It's Wednesday Addams. I see you're trying to distract yourself from your own banal thoughts. Let me help. Here's a recording thing made of my latest root canal.
Wednesday, Season 2, begins August 6th, only on Netflix.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. With the price of just about everything going up, we thought we'd bring our prices down. So to help us, we brought in a reverse auctioneer, which is apparently a thing.
Mint Mobile Unlimited Premium Wireless. How to get 30, 30, bit to get 30, bit to get 20, 20, 20, bit to get 20, 20, bit to get 15, 15, 15, 15, just $15 a month? Sold! Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
It's back to school season, and Clorox is donating 2 million disinfecting wipes to classrooms across America. Because back to school means things can get a little bit messy. Just ask kindergarten teacher Miss Gibson.
Give me just one Clorox wipe and I'm ready for glitter glue, exploded lunchbox yogurt, peanut butter handprints, runny noses, picking noses, rubbing noses.
Touching noses.
Thank you, Edward. Ooh, nap mats and lockers and tissue boxes. And
Clorox
scissors.
disinfecting wipes. Teacher's #1 wipe. Clean feels good. Based on unit sales data.
It's a cloudy day in Bori, an Ogoni community in Nigeria's Niger Delta region. Hundreds of people are gathered here to remember the struggle, suffering, and killing of thousands of Ogoni people in a brutal government-supported crackdown of peaceful demonstrations in the 1990s. Ogoni people were non-violently protesting the devastating impacts of oil exploration by Shell Nigeria, a subsidiary of Royal Dutch Shell Oil Company, on their land. Every November 10, memorial events like this one are held in several cities across the world. It was on this day in 1995 that activists Kenule Saro-Wiwa, John Oyenan, Dr. Barinem Kyobel, Paul Levra, Barry Bombera, Nordu Aiwo, Saturday Dobe, Daniel Gboko, and Felix Nuate were executed under the military leadership of General Sani Abacha. Their arrest and hasty judgment were backed by Shell. Marching to Ken Saro-Wiwa's home and final resting place, children and adults are holding banners with messages like "Leave Ogoni oil in the ground," "Climate justice now," "Shell out of Niger Delta," and their new slogan for Shell, "Shell, bringing hell to the Niger Delta since 1958. On their way, they are stopped by police officers standing in front of the Bori police station. After a brief standoff, activist Mbani Friday addresses the crowd.
Thank you so much, everybody. Today is a freedom fighter day. Today is a day that the Ogoni people declare as an International Freedom Day. Yes. Today, make it the 28 years after the killing of our father, our hero, Ken Saro-Wiwa, and 8 others. Today, the youth are coming together to mobilize, to full force together and demand Ogoni justice. Our father, late father, Ken Saro-Wiwa, is alive. And you're going to repeat after me. Ogoni people, united, can never be defeated. You say after me. Ogoni people, united, can never be defeated. Ogoni people.
Since the discovery of oil in Ogoni in the late 1950s, the region has produced about $30 billion worth of oil. It has also experienced 6,817 oil spills between 1976 and 2001 alone, accounting for over 2 million barrels of pollution. The region's economy previously relied on farming and fishing, activities the spills destroyed. The village of Goi, a traditional fishing village, was declared unlivable. Inhabitants had to evacuate but were never properly resettled or given any compensation or adequate support. The money taken from their land did not translate to development, a better life, inclusivity, wealth, or development. It did not bring the basics like water, electricity, hospitals, good roads, or schools either. As the Ogoni people began to assert their rights, their protests were curbed using force, a pattern that continues today. Any opposition to oil production is seen as a threat not only to the economy, but to the political system. Offices of environmental rights organizations have been raided, journalists targeted, and in 5 years, thousands of Ogonis were detained or beaten by the Rivers State Internal Security Task Force, ISTF, a military body specially created by the Abacha administration in 1994 to suppress the protests organized by the Movement of the Survival of the Ogoni People, MOSOP. Shell provided the ISTF with logistical support and even rewarded them. Once, Shell paid the commander at the time, Major Paul Okuntimo, and 25 of his troops an, quote, honorarium as a show of gratitude and motivation for a sustained favorable disposition.
The response from the authorities, like the police, whenever there is a protest against oil companies, is always different from how they respond to other protests.
Fine Face Dumnamine is an environmental activist from Ogoni. In 1993, the government banned public gatherings and declared that disturbances of oil production were treasonable offenses. As the military invaded communities, the killings which had started in 1990 became even more brutal. About 4,000 Ogonis were murdered, and women, some as young as 13 years old, were raped by the marauding soldiers. Hundreds of those who were able to escape to neighboring countries like Benin Republic have not returned to their ancestral homes since then. Benin hosts a community of over 1,200 Ogoni refugees living in camps under terrible conditions. They remain stateless and unable to integrate into Beninois society. They are also unable to work as they depend on handouts by NGOs, churches, and generous natives. In 1999, Fineboy Kuku, a former print journalist and member of Mosop, escaped to Benin Republic. He lives in a cramped single room with his wife and 4 children. He spoke to me from exile.
I have been in Benin Republic for about 23 years today. The basic reason why I ran away from Ogoniland was due to my political belief in the ideas of Mosop. Suppressions and a threat to my life. So I had to sneak out of the country. Not that I ran openly, I sneak out. I fled into the Republic of Benin for fear of my life, which have been persistent. As I got into Benin in 1999, I got registered with the UNHCR, United Nations for High Commission for Refugees. Unfortunately, because of the language barrier and other cultural barrier, we are unable to fit in, but for the sake of life, we endure whatever we pass through day after day and year after year. I'm here with them to safeguard us from being killed. For sure, those co-activists that were arrested, between the time we fled, most of them have been silently killed. And the reality is, either you are attacked as a court member, you will be executed, even without question. Some are killed even while they were taken from the prison or station where they kept them for some time. And so I'm even better off here, being alive, no matter the level of deprivations and suffering we pass through. Concerning the Land Use Acts and the Petroleum Act law, these were 2 draconian laws that were formulated by the then military head of state, General Olusegun Obasanjo, in 1978. The Land Use Act dictated that whatever is 6 feet up to the surface of the land belongs to the land's owner. But anything 7 feet, 8 feet below belongs to the government.
Leaving his wife and baby, Kuku said he fled to Benin Republic 23 years ago after the targeting of Ogoni youths who were in support of Mosop. Many of those he knew got killed or imprisoned. He also talks about Nigeria's Land Use Decree of 1978 and the Petroleum Act of 1969 that hands land and everything underneath to the Nigerian government, a continuation of a colonial policy. The laws give everything to the government and technically to the oil companies.
That law is very operational. It is this law that deprived the landowners of the resources embedded in their land. The starvation we go through most of the time is because we have been discharged from our environment, from our localities where we used to stay peacefully as Ogoni people. So the suffering here is quite above us. That is why you can see many of us are sick and so many died here. We organize ourselves to do menial jobs. We don't even have official documents of recognitions as refugee or asylees, which would have enhanced us being seat into the system or to be considered for any little or meager employment as the case may be.
Kuku said that many asylum applications were rejected because of Benin Republic's decision to stop granting refugee status to Ogonis in Benin since the year 2000. In 2004, the UNHCR decided that Ogoni refugees can now return safely to Nigeria since military rule has ended. But for those like Kuku, home is still not safe enough.
Where we born our children, most of them without birth papers, because what removes us from home is still there. If you go to Ogoni, you will not see any protest. No matter the trauma, no matter the suppression, no matter the oppression, no matter the killing, what they call cultism is the legal method the government have employed to kill the youth, and the youth are their prime target.
Angered by the resource injustice and pollution, armed groups started attacking oil installations and kidnapping oil staff in the early 2000s. This morphed into cultism and gang violence. Kuku says that the government still targets Ogoni youth, but this time under the guise of tackling cultism and violence.
There is no possibility. I cannot see in the near future the hope of going back. And to be precise, we miss home. Everybody miss home. Even most of the times our children, they ask us, are we from this country? They ask a lot of questions. Refugee is not a sweet name to bear because it engaged a lot of trauma, so much pain and pressure.
Nigerian security forces had sometimes also arrested, beaten, or intimidated relatives of activists. In 1997, the mother and sister of Ogoni student activist Sonny Kobo were detained.
While my wife fled also in the year 2000 to meet me up in Cotonou in Benin Republic, my wife was left at home because by the time I left that night, there was no way I could even get them proper information. You know, women. But on her own, why the security keep coming to ask for the husband that I must be produced. Next day we take her in my position. It was then that she complained to some of my working colleagues that were closer to us, both in Bori and Port Harcourt, who organized for her to run towards Benin Republic to look for her husband, since there was no way, no hope of bringing me back. Because if I am seen, they were all aware of what will happen to me. So my wife had to run after me with the kid. It was an early Sunday morning. She arrived where we stay. If she was at home, by now maybe she would have been killed.
From the 1990s till 2023, physical protests in Nigeria have become increasingly dangerous. In May 2023, a bill that provides a 5-year sentence for illegal protests passed a second reading in Nigeria's House of Representatives. This comes on the heels of the End SARS protest that rocks Nigeria in 2020. It's not the SARS you might be thinking of. In Nigeria, SARS is an acronym for a police task force called the Special Anti-Robbery Squad. Beginning on October 4, 2020 and through the next few weeks, thousands of Nigerian youths took to the streets to protest decades of police brutality and extrajudicial killings often committed by the squad.
We are tired! We are tired! We are tired! Police brutality! Stop torturing police stations! Stop torturing police stations!
During the protest, the Nigerian army opened fire on unarmed, peaceful protesters and killed 56 of them, according to Amnesty International. The brutality of the End SARS protests left a mark in the hearts of disgruntled Nigerians, especially the younger population, so much so that when the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his first speech announced the removal of fuel subsidy, and assistance provided by the government to reduce the price of fuel for consumers, Nigerians braced for suffering instead of protesting like they did in 2012 when former President Goodluck Jonathan made the same announcement. With protests becoming increasingly deadly, aggrieved people in oil-polluted communities have found ways to get justice. Some seek it in the courts, but not Nigerian courts. Although the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down the idea that a multinational firm can be held accountable in its home country for its actions overseas, both the UK Supreme Court and the Dutch High Court have agreed to hear cases against Shell brought by Nigerian communities. In 2015, thousands of community members from the Bodo region sued Shell over the impact of chronic spills in the area and received a settlement of more than £50 million. And even in 2023, post-Brexit, the UK Supreme Court agreed to hear a case filed on behalf of thousands of Nigerian fishermen against Shell. Elizabeth Driscoll is a law student at the University of Bristol and Jurist's UK Chief of Staff.
In that landmark decision being made in the UK, all cases that are involving Nigerians wanting to sue Shell are likely to go to the UK first in the future, especially if they're of this size, So we're unlikely to see any more Dutch cases or Nigerian cases because there's now a relationship set up between the courts and this judgment.
In January 2021, after 13 years of litigation, a Dutch court ruled that Shell's Nigerian subsidiary is responsible for spills that polluted Goi, Oruma, and Ikota outdoor communities. The company paid €15 million in compensation in early 2023 to be shared among the three communities. The 2021 UNEP report on Ogini indicates that $1 billion is needed for the cleanup of Ogini pollution. Eric Doe from Goi is among the farmers who won the case.
As I speak with you, some people have not even received their own due to some unexpected issues that arises as a result of wrong information from their banks. Not everybody has gotten their compensation, but for me, I've gotten my own. Majority of the people have gotten their compensation. The money that was paid was used for the renovation of houses. Some people use their own in acquiring landed property, and the money were collected and they used in buying land where they will now dwell on. Some use their own for business, small businesses that will sustain them. It is some that will not use it judiciously also. This money, as I speak with you, is very small and cannot sustain us. The swamp is where our source of revenue, our source of livelihood comes from. Our people solely depended on fishing and farming. And because the streams and the swamp had been polluted, the farmland had been polluted by crude oil, where will they go and where would the sustainability comes from when our own source of sustainability comes from the land and the sea? So I cannot say it is sustainable. It is only when the government will maintain their facilities and ensure that there is no further pollution and ensure that the livelihood of the people are restored, remediation activities take place. That is when we can now sustain what has been given to us. It wasn't sustainable at all. It couldn't settle the problems of livelihood that had been impacted. It couldn't settle the problem of remediation and restoration of our environment.
Kentebe Biarido is the coordinator of Oil Watch International. His organization campaigns against fossil fuel exploration in Ogoni.
I was elated because for me, it was a judgment for the people. It was a judgment for the communities. It was a judgment for the environment. And it's a clear lesson that you cannot cheat the people forever. If the government does not stand with the people and stand with the multinationals, one day they will be in the dock. Justice is gradually being served. Like Ken Sariwa said, that is not the only one on trial. Shell and other multinational companies are also on trial.
And as I speak to you, the trial of multinationals all over the world is gaining traction, and the people, communities are winning all over the world.
In my reporting, I have visited Ogini. I've watched fishermen toil for hours and return with only a handful of fish, oily nets, and broken hearts. I've watched them open crabs of fish to reveal oil in their guts. No living thing has a survival chance there. Potable water in some of the communities is non-existent. When the tap is opened, the smell of crude oil fills the air. The average life expectancy there is 41. As Shell prepares to sell off its subsidiary and exits Nigeria's onshore exploration to focus offshore, I wonder what the fate of polluted communities would be. The spills are not just in Ogoni, but throughout the Niger Delta. In May 2023, a report published by the Bayelsa State Oil and Environmental Commission fingered Shell and other oil majors in massive pollution in Bayelsa State, also in Nigeria's Niger Delta. According to the report, Shell, Eni, Chevron, Total, and ExxonMobil spilled at least 110,000 barrels of oil in Bayelsa over the past 50 years. Like the UNEP report on Ogoni that specified about 30 years for a cleanup, the Bayelsa spills will require 12 years and $12 billion to be remediated. It means that more cases would likely make it to the courts. Ebere Akwebu is an environmental lawyer and activist. She spoke to me from the COP28 climate conference in Dubai, where there are speculations that, ironically, new oil deals were being signed as the conference was underway.
There were so many speculations as to the real agenda of the COP and why UAE was the host country for COP. Because, of course, we know that UAE is an oil-rich country and all of that. But you see, there are so many, these are all speculations. If you say you want to phase out fossil fuel, and by fossil fuel coming from the oil and gas industry, it will mean that there will be a higher commitment, financial commitment from the developed countries for the developing countries. And will there be grants? Because if you're giving us loans, the country presently is already under recession. But then looking at it from the perspective of whether there's going to be increased litigation in the oil and gas sector, unless oil and gas is phased out in Nigeria, there definitely will keep on being litigation issues, incidents of pollution, incidents of degradation, environmental degradation, and of course the people will keep suing the oil companies.
Oil deals at a climate conference, even as Shell fights to resume oil exploration in Ogoni. Celestine Nkabiri Abobari, coordinator of Ogoni Solidarity Forum, says that the government and oil companies are trying in different ways to stifle the voices of local people. In his words,
the plan of the government before that execution was to make Ogoni land an oil field where no human being will live. But after their execution and they saw international outcry and condemnation, the soldiers were later withdrawn from Ogoni land after 2 years. And that's why some of us are still alive. Things are worse than the days of Kesarua because there have been several leakages. In fact, there is hardly a week we pass without any serious oil spill. Don't forget that the Trans-Niger Delta pipeline, the pipeline that conveys every crude oil produced in the Niger Delta to Bonny Export Terminal, passes through Ogoni land. And so every time you see explosions, you see leakages, the warehouses of the oil companies are still here. You know, they don't carry out routine checks. So from time to time, there are leakages and spills.
Akbabiri says one way that Shell and the government deal with the protests in the country today is to try to turn some of the more vocal leaders in the environmental movement into allies, to divide and conquer. It's a common tactic deployed by the fossil fuel industry all over the world, as is another tactic used in Nigeria, infiltration.
As we speak, the movement for the survival of Ogoni people has been infiltrated by government and the oil companies to the extent that you now have 5 different factions with 5 different presidents. The only way to kill a movement is to polarize the movement.
He says the military and judicial systems have been corrupted as well.
They use the military to chase people. They adopt the viral rule, get people to bribe them on their payroll. Then they go to court. They compare you, you go to court, and they will keep bribing the judges, bribing the court until somebody will die, the litigant will die, or people get tired, or they get sick and can't go to court again. The current president of Nigeria, President Tinubu Bola Ahmed, appointed the former Mossop president, Ledu Mite, the only man that survived the hangman. He went on trial with Ken Saro-Wiwa. He was the president of Mossop that took over from Ken Saro-Wiwa. He had just been appointed on no other board but NNPC board, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation board.
Just to make sure you caught that, in late 2023, the president of Nigeria appointed Ledo Mite, a man who stood trial with Ken Saro-Wiwa and took over as president of Mossop after the Ogoni 9 were executed, to the board of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation.
Well, we are going to fight them. They have spent billions of money bribing people. They want to kickstart oil production without addressing the legitimate issues that the Ogoni people that is enshrined in the Ogoni Bill of Rights.
In 2005, the Living Memorial, an art installation created from a life-sized boss, was commissioned by the UK activist collective Platform and designed by the Nigerian-British artist Sokari Douglas Camp to highlight the importance of transportation in environmental debates. In 2015, it was sent as a gift to Ogoni people to mark the 20th anniversary of the death of the Ogoni 9. Alongside anniversary flyers designed to commemorate the event, it was seized by the Nigerian Customs and the Director of Secret Service, DSS. The bus, which had been on display in the UK for 9 years, had Saro-Wiwa's name on the side and the names of the 8 other men inscribed on oil drums on top of the bus, along with a quote from Saro-Wiwa: "I accuse the oil companies of practicing genocide against the Ogoni." In what has been termed a move to suppress the memory of the martyred activist, it was seized for its, quote, political value. It is seen as a symbol of protest.
The boss did not commit any offense. It is just an artwork. The former head of customs, Nigeria Customs, Colonel Ahmed Ali, was the only military officer that sat on the Kangaroo Tribunal that sentenced Ken Saro-Wiwa to death.
When you learn that the head of customs who kept blocking the bus happened to have been the only military officer involved in sentencing Ken Saro-Wiwa to death in 1995, his decision to block the bus suddenly takes on more meaning.
And so everything in the name of Ken Saro-Wiwa should not be honored. And he does not know how to separate his personal biases from his work as head of Customs Nigeria. The same people that send the bus send some flyers. The boxes containing the flyers were also seized by the DSS at a different agency of government, a different arm, paper, flyers, simply because we will use the flyers for the commemoration of Ken Saro-Wiwa.
He says that the government seems to be afraid that anything celebrating Ken Saro-Wiwa will just inspire the Ogoni people to keep fighting, and that's the last thing the government wants.
We have been pushed to the wall. We have taken our destiny in our hands. If we see death, we take. If we see life, we take. So we are not afraid of what the oppressor will throw at us. They have divided our ranks. Definitely they have weaponized hunger.
The government has used all of its power to fight against its own people in Ogoni on behalf of foreign oil companies.
The oil companies cannot do without the military and the police. In 1990, you had a story in Omochem where the community people went to the gate of Shell to go and beg for water. And they called in the riot policemen that came in to kill people out of fear community people ran into the palace of the king. But these men that do not have respect for nobody got into the palace, set the palace on fire. They killed the king, killed his wife and his children, and every person that ran into the palace. I'll be arrested by military men. I can't forget one of the time myself, Reverend Nimobasi, Che Begura, and several comrades were there. Before we knew it, one truckload of soldiers had come and pick us up. They didn't tell us where they were taking us to. But the good thing was that before they picked phones from us, we have communicated to journalists. They saw it and called them, hey, these people you were there are important people. And we were eventually released. I don't know whether they would have killed us. Government gave them power to carry arms.
In 2016, Nigeria's National Assembly asked the Customs Office to release the bus. The service flouted the directive, so the Ogini Solidarity Forum Nigeria and Social Action filed a lawsuit in the Federal High Court. I reached out to the Nigeria Customs Service to get their comment on the bus, but they did not send back any reply. In June 2023, after Colonel Hamid Ali left his post as Controller General of the Nigerian Customs Service, a court in Lagos ordered that the bus be released. Celestine was happy. He imagined that it would be released right on time to be fully displayed on November 10, 2023. He had plans to dress the bus in traditional clothes and honor it in a parade.
The bus will be on a truck. As you tie wrapper on the waist of important people, that's how the bus will be tying a cloth. We will dress the bus traditionally. We will treat the bus as a human being. And a lot of things, traditional dances, it will take like 3 days.
But again, he was disappointed, as were his Ogoni kinsmen. The bus did not make an appearance on this 28th anniversary. The Nigerian Customs did not release the bus despite the court order. Exiled in faraway USA, Dinebari Augustine Wainan has never joined the memorial event in Ogoni. He is the younger brother of John Wainan, one of the Ogoni Nine. He fled to Benin in 1996 and then to the USA 3 years later.
My elder brother, late John Wainan, was so dear to me. He was like a father because our father left when I was like 12 years old. So when he was the very reason I joined the movement for the survival of Ogoni people. He was a very good Christian. Paul Okontimo told me that he was going to kill me, and that was how I escaped the hangman. If not, they would have killed me too.
The night before the anniversary in the city of Port Harcourt, the crowd had gathered in front of Sarawiwa's house, a two-story building situated a few meters between the Port Harcourt prisons, where the Ogoni Nine were incarcerated on the right, and Port Harcourt Cemetery, where they were buried before Sarawiwa's exhumption on the left. Ken Sarawiwa lived between the two facilities that sealed his fate. As they lit candles and prayed, laureate of the Rights Livelihood Award and one of Time Magazine's Heroes of the Environment, Nemo Bassi, spoke to the new generation of protesters.
There are a whole lot of young people here tonight who were not born when this event happened. But they have lived the experience of what led to the struggle. Children who were born after, those who are born even today, they are living in Niger Delta where all those harms are still happening. And so this is very significant to remind the people that, look, the struggle is not over. And the young people must be engaged in the struggle.
In October 2023, another oil spill occurred in Kedere community of Kokana local government area of Rivers State. It took Shell 5 days to stop the Gershon crude. Shell had denied that its old pipelines were responsible for spills. As we were producing this episode, I heard some news from Ogoni.
So they are supposed to inform us. They are supposed to consult the people and tell them that, okay, if we are doing routine maintenance, which is necessary that they should do, because it is the lack of that that make oil spillages destroy our environment because of ruptured pipe that were laid in the 50s.
Today, Uyinen works for the organization that Ken Saro-Wiwa started, MOSOP. In February, several indigenous people from the Kedere community reported seeing men out working on oil pipes in the region. Shell is selling off its onshore business in Nigeria, so no one was sure what was going on, especially as security guarding the sites were aggressive towards curious visitors. Within a few days, it was confirmed that they were working for Shell, repairing pipelines in the region.
So if they are coming to repair or change the pipes, they should negotiate or consult the people and let them know what they are coming to do in their place. But that is not done. And they just one morning wake up and started digging people's land and property, destroying what belongs to people without consultation. All those things are unacceptable. And it means that they don't regard us as people. There is no respect.
No respect from Shell, but also no respect from the Nigerian government, he says.
Government don't own Ogoni. There was Ogoni before Nigeria. In fact, Ogoni existed hundreds of years before the contraption called Nigeria came in. And that was just about 100 years ago. And while Ogoni have lived longest before that Nigeria, we were forced into Nigeria. We were living on our own. There is no ethnic nationality in Nigeria that can lay claim to Ogoni that they were ruling the Ogoni people before the British government came in. And I know that we are only the people that have a very strong story that the British can always tell about. Because of the resistance. 3 times they tried to came through colonize Ogoni people and they failed.
On the land and in the courts, the Ogoni are still resisting today. Drilled is an original Critical Frequency production. This episode was reported and written by me, Ugochi Anyaka-Ulibo, with recording assistance by Emmanuel Wazwe.
Our senior editors are Aline Brown and Sarah Ventry.
Malo Sterling contributed reporting to this episode.
Our senior producer is Martin Zoltz-Ostwick.
Martin also did the sound design and scoring for this episode.
And composed much of our music.
Our theme song is Bird in the Hand by Foreknown.
Mixing and mastering by Peter Duff.
Fact-checking by Wudan Yan.
Our artwork is by Matt Fleming.
James Wheaton is our First Amendment attorney.
The show was created by Amy Westervelt,
who has helped edit this episode. More stories and documents from this series are online at drill.media.
You can also sign up for our newsletter there to get a curated list of the week's most important climate stories delivered to you weekly.
It's never more than a 10-minute read, and people tell us it helps them stay on top of all things climate.
Upgrade to a paid newsletter or podcast subscription for access to ad-free, early release episodes and bonus content.
To support our work, please share this episode or give us a rating or a review wherever you're listening. It really helps us to find new listeners.
Thanks for listening.
And we'll see you next week.